Hello everyone, welcome back to DevOps Easy Learning, AWS Cloud Tutorials, the hands-on demo. In today's episode, we will be talking about one of the most critical DevOps responsibilities. We're going to be talking about backing up and restoring in AWS EC2. Whether it's a human error or system failure, having proper backups can save the day. And we will show you how you can do that right here today. Now, the services we're going to be using today will be the AWS EC2 snapshot service, as well as the AWS backup service. Now, every EC2 instance stores its data on an EBS volume. Backing them up can be done in two ways. And like I said, the two services we'll be using today is you can either manually back up your EC2 instance using the EBS snapshots, or you can automatically use the AWS backup service, which is like a centralized policy driven tool. The AWS documentation throws a lot of light into what these two services are. Now, the Amazon EBS snapshot, it's a point in time copies of your EC2. And the snapshot that is taken is an incremental backup, which means that we only save the blocks on the volume that have changed since the last or the most recent snapshot. Now, you want to learn both uh, because snapshots are quick and simple, or while the AWS backup service is its enterprise grade solution. Now, the AWS backup is fully managed service. That means it is centralized and it is automated data protection across AWS services. And it is so good to the point whereby it allows you to actually have a lifecycle management policy set in place. You can also do cross-region backup. You can also do cross-account management and cross-account backup. That means you can actually share these backups across different AWS accounts within your AWS organization. Uh, some some important things to note about the EBS snapshot, for instance, is that the EBS snapshot also has its own snapshot lifecycle, and it also has some beneficial features like the EBS fast snapshot restore and the EBS snapshot lock. The EBS snapshots you can also share between different regions and availability zones. But something you have to understand about the snapshot is that AWS takes this snapshot and they store it in an S3 bucket for you that you cannot directly access it. That is, AWS stores it, and keeps it for high availability. So, and for disaster recovery, just to make sure that your images that of your volumes or your EC2 instances are properly saved. Now, this provides high availability durability for that snapshot data. I don't want to talk too much about this, but if you have some time, please come over here and look for Amazon EBS snapshot documentation as well as the AWS backup services. These will give you a lot of explanations so that you have very good information at the back of your hands in regards to these two services that we're going to be playing with today. Now, let's look at this diagram. Now, the snapshots are always tied to the EBS volumes that is attached to the EC2 instance. And the backup service, what it does is that it actually takes snapshots and it would also create AMIs for you that you can use. Now, if something fails, we can easily restore the lost data or the information or applications we have in our EC2 instance using the snapshot. Now, without much ado, let's jump into the cloud and let's see how we can create snapshots. As you can see right here, I already have an EC2 server that I spun up and that is already ready. And I have already, taken the pains to go in here and make some changes in that server so that we can see how we can save it. For instance, let me uh, SSM into that EC2 instance, and you can see here from this server that I have already, you know, installed some packages. Let's say this is a CI/CD server that's been used for a CI/CD pipeline. I installed um, Jenkins in this one. Uh, Status Jenkins. You can see I have Jenkins in here running, and since it's a CI/CD pipeline, sometimes we always want to make sure we have Docker as well running in that server, as well as Git. So you can see this is like a production server that has some necessary tools in there. I believe I also installed Java in it. Let me confirm that. And yes, so you see, I have Java installed in this EC2 instance. I have Git, I have Docker, and I have Jenkins running here. So let's say you have this running, with your some of your Jenkins agents, and you're using it to maintain your pipeline, and you're afraid that from time to time maybe some changes might be made to your Jenkins homepage, and you want these changes to stick or stay over time. If something ever happens to production and that this server goes down, like maybe it goes into a state where that's critical and goes down, you want to be able to spin up a new server that has everything, all the information, all the data, everything that you have in your Jenkins home directory reinstalled in a new EC2 instance. And that is where one of the good examples where the snapshot and the AWS backup service can actually help you. In a future series, we will be looking at status and alarms and monitoring, so we can see how we can set that up as well, so that it can have a way of alerting us when something is going wrong with us. But that will be in another series. But first, let's see how we can create snapshots of this EC2, and let's also see how we can also create uh, uh, a policy, a backup plan, a policy for this. Now, a good thing you also have to understand is that we've already looked at the AWS AMI, Amazon Machine Images, snapshots and volumes. You can actually use them, a snapshot, for instance, to create an AMI. And so it will become a bootable volume attached to that AMI when you're launching a new EC2 instance. Okay. Now, how do you create a snapshot? So let's say this is what the instance you like to create a snapshot. Just so you know that every instance you have running here has a volume attached to it. Now let's look at this one, for instance. This one, I'm going to take a copy of this one, and if I scroll down to Elastic Block Store, I click volumes right here, open in a new tab, you will see if I filter for just that instance, it will show me that I have a volume already attached to that instance. So this is what we call an EBS bootable volume. As you can see right here, it has says it's in use availability zone, which is the same availability zone as the EC2 instance. And you can see the ID of our EC2 instance already showing that this is actually the volume of our EC2. So we want to create another volume, a replica of this same volume, and store it for future use. Now, if I go to snapshot here, you will see that I only have one snapshot. This is a snapshot I created of an open VPN server that I have running, you know, supplying myself an open VPN on my own devices, but I'm going to create another snapshot from the present server that we have here today. This running server that we have here. And how do you do that? Just select this instance, go to actions, and you will see on the, I think it's instance, set, no, image and templates. No, not that here. Give me a second. I think it is. you know what? Let's use the volume instead. Let's create a snapshot from the volume. So I'm going to select the volume, and like I said, this is the volume of the EC2 instance. So I'm going to select this, and I'll go to actions, and I'll click create snapshot. Now I'm going to give it a name. I'll say prod server with Jenkins, Docker, Git installed. Yep. Now, for the tag, I'm going to say name, and I'm going to use the value. I'll say my snapshot volume as my snapshot image. Let's do this and click create snapshot. And if I refresh and remove this filtration, and you can see that I actually have a new volume, not this snapshot, sorry. I go here to snapshot. You can see here that we have a new snapshot created, my snapshot image. And as you can see right here, it says it's pending. This is going to take a while for it to come up. So it's as simple as that. A snapshot is now being created. You can use this to restore or create new volumes. Now, how do you create volumes from a snapshot? You can just select it. Let's say this is a snapshot that we just created, and you want to create a new volume. You just select it and you click create new volume. And when you do that, you make sure that the volume you're creating and you want to attach to an EC2 instance is in the same availability zone of that EC2 instance. That is very important because you will not be able to attach the volume to an EC2 instance if it's in a different availability zone. Now, when you do all that, you can even decide at this point to even increase the volume that you of for your new instance that you want to mount on your new instance. You can go ahead and increase it, and when you click create volume, it will automatically create a new volume for you. And when you create that volume, it's going to be in the in an you see where it says volume is state, you see it, it will say available, which means that volume is available to be attached. And let's see if our snapshot is already ready. As you can see, it is completed. Good. Now, let's say we want to create a volume from this snapshot. Like I said, action, create volume, and I'm going to leave everything as default. And let's assume that the EC2 instance I'm creating is going to be in US East 1A. I've just come down here and click, let me give it a name tag, and I'll name it my new volume. And I'll click create volume. And if I go to volume services, you will see my new volume right here, and you will see that it is now available. Now, from here, you can now say, you know what, I have a new instance, or I'm launching a new instance that I want to attach this volume to. It's as simple as selecting that volume you just created, and you click action, and you can see where it says attach volume. So you click attach volume, and it's going to ask you, what instance are you trying to attach it to? In my case, it's showing me that there is no a instance that is in this US East one. That's why I was mentioning that make sure you're creating your volume for an instance that it is the same availability zone as that volume. So in my case, there is none, but if there was one, all I need to do is select that instance, and then I'm going to choose a device name. It will give me options of different device names. Usually they start with /dev /xvdf /xsddi, different mount paths. You just click attach volume, and that new volume will become attached to the instance. Now, there's an additional step that you need to do. You have to go into you have to SSH into that instance and run some sudo mount commands and some sudo xd partition you have to partition the volume before you actually mount it to a new path that you would have created in that EC2 instance. We're going to do something of a demo of that nature, but that will not be on this particular series. So we just talked about how to create snapshot and how to create a volume from that snapshot and how to attach the volume to the a server, and then you go ahead and mount it, and then that server will have everything your primary or principal server had in it already installed in it in your new server. Now, but this is just a manual process, and you see how it means you have to come back tomorrow and do the same thing, or another week later to do the same thing. What if you want to automate the process where you don't have to do it? You want to kind of set like a schedule or policy that runs every day or every hour, creating images incrementally of your volume. Now, the service you would want to use at that point is what we call the AWS backup service. I'm going to open this in a new tab. Now, this is the service that we're talking about. Now, with this new service, you're able to automate or set up a policy that will help you set up a backup plan. And before you do that, the very first thing I want you to know is that I know here it says create a backup plan, but you want to create a vault first. Now, this is going to be where this will store. Now, there's usually a default one, but if you don't see a default one, then you can go ahead and create one yourself. I already have two here, but let me show you guys how you can create a vault. And this vault will be where these new images are stored. So I'm going to click create new vault and give it a name, and I'll say my snapshot demo vote, and I'm going to create backup vote store immutable backups. I'm going to select this option, and you want to encrypt them. It's always good, wise that you encrypt your data even at rest or in transit. So I'm going to select encrypt key, and I'm using the AWS managed key to encrypt these volumes and these AMI images that will be created. For other tag, I'm just going to say name, and I'll say uh, demo vote. Okay, then click create vote. Now, if I go back to votes, you can see that I have my vote created. The vote is created here. Now, with this vote created, now we can go back and actually create a backup plan. Now, this backup plan is just a logical policy that has a schedule that runs, for you to create it. And how do you create it? You're going to click create a backup plan right here and build a new plan and give it a name. I'll name this one demo snapshot backup. And the name of the schedule will be, I'm just going to, name the schedule the same name as the plan. And vote, you're going to use the one we just created, the vote we just created, my snapshot demo vote. If you don't select this vote, it will automatically default to the default vote that I said is already there in your account. So I'm going to select my new vote that I just created. Frequency. Now, this is how often you want this service to run. If you want it to run hourly, this is what you're going to pick. If you want to run every 12 hours, you pick that, and so on and so forth. So for us, we're just going to pick hourly, which is like the closest time. And this backup window we should be completed within the 30th, within 30 minutes of every hour. That is what this is saying. So, uh, um, sorry, I meant every 30, yes, 30 minutes of every hour, it should be completed. And it should start within every hour of that hourly stuff, and it should be completed within You can set completed within 2 hours. So you don't want, but it all varies because I am doing hourly. So let's say you're doing this, weekly, then your values here would change. Now, enable continuous backup for point-in-time recovery. You can enable this as well. But don't worry, I would say, don't worry. Just leave it the way it is. AWS is going to take care of it for you. Now, life cycle. Now, move backup from warm to cold. This is important because after you create some backups and you don't use it after a while, these things cost money to have all this AMI image. You want to actually move it from cold storage, from a warm stage to a cold storage where it's like a different life cycle of storage. Now, total retention period. This is how long, the number of days you want these images created to last. You can say 7 days, for instance. So AWS knows that the total retention must be set between 98 days, 8 days in warm, and that. So yeah, so it's now looking at this. I'm just going to change this to 0 so it makes our whole life easier with this demo. So timing, I'm just going to take that. And for now, we said we want this 7 days, and after 7 days, get rid of it. Now, the region, if this is where you want to share this backup with other AWS regions. So let's say we already have ours running in North Virginia, but you want it, also available for use for other EC2 instances in Ohio. This is where you select that region, the other region you want. With that, we're just going to click create plan, and we're going to assign resources. Now, this is where you tell the AWS backup policy what resource you want it to do. So, for instance, you can say the name of that server is going to be my Jenkins server. I will name the resource assignment as Jenkins server backup. And I'm going to allow AWS to create a default role for me. So the default role will be there to, with all the necessary required permissions to interact with the EC2 instance and create a snapshot. So it's going to have all the necessary permission it needs to run. So it will be a service linked role that will be created on our behalf. Now, include all resources. This is if you want the policy to address all resources you have in your account. But if you want it specifically for a particular EC2 instance, you're going to select the include specific resource type, and you're going to select what resource you want to do. So what this tells me is we can actually set up backup services on Aurora, RDS service, on a CloudFormation template, Document DB, or a DynamoDB and NoSQL database, or you can set it on EBS or on EC2. In our case, we are not going to be setting on EBS, we're going to set it on the EC2. So select that, and here it says it's going to try to do a backup on all instances, but we don't want that. We just want one specific instance, which is our snapshot server right here. I'm going to select that. And then this is where you want to exclude certain resources. Like if in our case we've been specific already for a particular instance, so we don't need to restrict anything here. With that, I'm just going to click assign resources, and you can see that everything is ready. So my backup rule is in play. You can see it's going to be running hourly. That is, at every 30 minutes of the hour it would run, and it will start so it's going to be starting the next 1 hour, and we have set it for a 1 week 7 days retention, and it's going to store our images right here in this vault, and everything should be completed within 2 hours of setting it up. Now, when this starts to run, when it's time for it to run, you can actually see it right here in under jobs. So when you go to jobs, right now it says empty, no backup jobs to display. Once it starts running, you're going to see it populating right here for you to see. Now, if you go to protected resources, this will show you the resources that the backup policy actually implemented itself on. So you will see, for instance, in our case, you will see the EC2 instance that we selected. It's going to be here as a protected resources. And unfortunately, this would take some time for it to run within an hour. But just keep practicing, guys, and as much as possible, test and see. But fair warning, this service itself is free, but the subsequent EMIs that will be created on your behalf. Now, as it's running here, once it starts creating EMIs, you will be seeing those EMIs populating right here. It will be showing you every hour the EMIs that it was created from those snapshots of that EC2 instance. You will see them populating right here. And remember, these snapshots are equivalent to volumes, and AWS is going to charge you over the free tier 30 gigabyte. Anything, any new snapshots created here for an EMI it will start generating spend in your account. So please be very careful when running this AWS uh, backup service in your account, as it will generate a lot of spend in your account. So if you're done with your test, you can test this and let it run for like an hour or two and see how everything works out well. And once you're happy with what you see, let me show you what you have to do so that you don't, in, generate too much spend in your account. You're going to go back to the backup plans, and you want to, delete the plan that you have right there. You want to make sure that you select the rule. Um, Second, you go up here where it says delete snapshot backup. You want to delete it. You put in the name right here. Delete plan. Related backup plan section must be deleted prior to this. So it wants us to delete this first, but it's not running yet, so we can't delete it right now. Give me a second. Let's see if there's a way we can go around this without actually costing us anything. I'm going to go into my votes, and I'm going to try to delete this vote. Alright, the vote is being deleted. Now I'm going to go back to my backup plans, and now I'm going to attempt to delete it one more time. Still can't delete it yet. All right. For what is what, keep an eye on this, because you do not want these to come back to bite you. So let me try to delete the resource assignment and see if that would, maybe that is the blocker for me deleting this. All right, that is gone. Now let's see if I can delete this. Still can't, unfortunately. All right, oh, cool. No worries. Um, Another thing that you can do, just to make sure that you're on the safe side, is that you want to go back into that resource that it's pointing at and make sure that that resource is not running. And in our case, that is an EC2 instance. I'm going to go back to my EC2 instance, and I'm going to make sure I terminate this EC2 instance. So if it tries to run and it doesn't find the instance that that is supposed to be a protected resource, it will actually fail, and no image or snapshot will be created, and hence no spend in my account. So I'm going to go here and click terminate instance. Click that, and it should be terminating very soon. Now, with that gone, the volume we created as well, that is still in use, that is still available, we want to remove that as well, because AWS is presently going to be charging us for this one as well. So click that, and I'm going to click delete volume, delete. And that is it. All right, guys. I hope this was very informative. This configuration that we've taken, we've shown you how you can do a manual snapshot, by backup of your EC2 instance as well as the AWS backup service that can automate the process. In the next class series, we are going to be looking at how we can create a cloud watch for monitoring of our EC2 so we can have like a dashboard, presentation of the status and state of our EC2 instance. Please stick with us and we're going to keep walking through each of these services and how to spin it up and make our AWS journey as exciting and fun and informative as much as possible. So don't forget to like and subscribe, keep in touch, hit that notification button so that every time we upload or post a new video or tutorials on our DevOps Easy Learning channel, you will get notified. And want to thank you for being with us, and I will see you in the next series. Thank you.